Welcome to Custom Homebuilders Solutions, also known as CHS, a job costing, full accounting, and profit management software designed specifically for the professional home builder. Hello there, this is Carol King, the developer of Custom Homebuilders Solutions, also known as CHS. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to get started with setting up things for your accounting. Since this is a full accounting program, we're mostly going to be discussing setting up your chart of accounts. But let's take a little bit of a look over here under Setup and Help, CHS Setup Steps. We have videos, etc. for these very first steps that have to do with setting up a lot of your job costing and getting ready for that. But that doesn't take care of getting set up with your chart of accounts that you need for your financial statements and things like that. We will mostly be discussing the chart of accounts. But in a video right before this, I discussed that you need to very first pay attention to what methods of accounting and what they are. Discuss that with your accounting and decide what method of accounting that you're on. And I have a little document that lets you compare accounting methods that I also go through in the video that you would find just before this video for the chart of accounts. So I'd like to be sure that you watch that. The other thing I'd like to mention is that you can see that setting up financial departments is right here before setting up your chart of accounts. And that's because when you set up your chart of accounts, there's also a spot to put your balance forwards from your previous set of books before getting CHS, where you set up your balance forwards and you can set those up by department. And you'll see that more as we get on into the chart of accounts and then into balances forwards. But it's good for you to watch the video about setting up departments and maybe go ahead and decide on some departments that you'd like to have and get those set up. In this particular video, we're going to be talking about the chart of accounts. So let's close this and let's collapse our entire home menu. And let's go right down here to where it says chart of accounts. I'd also like to point out before I go there that if you watch all that stuff about methods of accounting and you want more information about the percentage of completion method of accounting, you should go over here to AJE's POC stands for percentage of completion. And if you click on this percentage of completion, you'll go to a menu for percentage of completion, and there will be full help and videos on that menu. So let's go to our chart of accounts and let's click on it to open it. And then I'm going to talk about a chart of accounts is a list of the accounts. They're often referred to as general ledger accounts in accounting for some reason because we print what is called general ledgers. So say you have an account on your chart of accounts for office supplies and telephone expense or loans payable, this and that. The ledger will group by these accounts and they call them general ledgers. So the accounting numbers on your chart of accounts are often referred to, and in CHS you'll see GL number. That's what that means. It's an account on your chart of accounts, and that's what that term is about. But first of all, it says to set up or edit the chart of accounts, click the button labeled Chart of Accounts under Accounting Setup. And since this is a brand new builder, what you'll find when you open the chart of accounts is that there are 11 accounts. That's these accounts that are not in bold. Those 11 accounts are what we call control accounts that CHS needs to use to handle some things for you in accounting. For example, accounts payable trade, we need to have one of those on your chart of accounts because when you enter bills, you might post a bill for office supplies, but CHS behind the scenes will post the offsetting entry to keep your books in balance to accounts payable. Same for accounts receivable. We also have some things to help handle prior period things, which we're going to get to in this series of videos. If you have prior period costs, open receivables coming forward, prior period, or open payables coming forward. Now these account numbers can be changed before you ever enter any data. You could change these account numbers, and we will be talking about telling CHS what your control accounts are. We already have these control accounts in here. These by control accounts we mean Let us know where you want CHS to post offsetting entries. You won't need to be telling CHS where to do that anymore while you're doing data entry. So those are control accounts that CHS needs to use. This is a double entry set of books in your accounting table. And so CHS will be posting really kind of little tiny journal entries behind the scenes every time you post a bill, etc. Anyway, you can load the National Association of Home Builders recommended chart of accounts, or a simpler chart that I set up because I think there's an awful lot of things a lot of custom home builders don't use on the NAHB, so I did a simpler chart. You can load one or the other of those and view them first and load them. Let's click that. And then you could edit or change them as needed, but you could get them all loaded and then get them set up. Discuss these. You should print them both out and maybe discuss these with your accountant. I clicked on this thing. It opens in what's called an HTML web report. In other words, it's kind of a web page. And as you scroll, you'll see it doesn't really break pages. That's because if we open as an HTML, you can send all of this to Excel if you like, for whatever reason, because maybe you're wanting to, just use them and then, title your own things, etc., just for a worksheet for yourself of what those NAHB chart of accounts are going to be. But if you export to PDF, just to get it printed out and have it open in your own Adobe Reader, it will be in 2 columns. Now what I'd like to talk about is these things in gray are what we call financial sections. Those do come from CHS and cannot be changed. They control how balance sheets are presented, and they control how income statements are presented. And so there are these big sections, and those are the only sections there. But underneath, you're going to see these various group headings of accounts in bold here. These you can control. You can set up your own. You can get rid of ones that you don't want, etc. And if you're doing your own chart of accounts from scratch and not loading one of these, you probably want to get your group headings set up first, and we'll be talking about those here in a minute. The simpler one, the simple chart of accounts, is one I put together to remove some of the excess that I think custom home builders don't use. Of course, you could add, after you loaded these, you could add some accounts that NAHB has to it. You can add new chart of accounts to it. For one thing, office expenses, I've always just liked to have them in alphabetical order, so I don't have those broken apart so much like NAHB had computer expenses with a heading. I just made one heading for office expenses. Although I think in this video we're going to make a heading to put payroll all in one group. By the groups, I mean you're grouping things so that on financial statements, these things will be totaled, by these various groups. It'll show what your total of your current liabilities are, for example. And you might decide you want all of your payroll taxes payable in one group, something like that. So you could set up current liability and payroll taxes due group if you like, etc. So anyway, we're going to decide to load that simple chart. We've studied on it and we decided we want to load the simpler chart of accounts. And CHS will bring in the group headings and everything that goes with that. So let's load the simpler chart of accounts. It's asking me, is it okay? What it's going to do is delete all these accounts that are here and replace them with the simpler chart of accounts, and it will assign control accounts for you. So they're just here because we have to have these in case you're setting up your own. But before any entries are entered, you could click the pencil edit icon and change this account number if you need to. You need to do all of that before you start entering anything into accounting though. So let's say, okay, we're going to load that. It says the selected account has been loaded. Now it's going to refresh the data. And now you'll see up here it says records 125. That means all these have been loaded. you could start going through them and just delete something you don't really want, you don't need it, you're not going to be using it. Maybe you're not going to have sales for land held for development, and so what you can do is delete with this red X. Okay, to delete this account. Now CHS will check to see if anything's been posted to that account and let you know, and not let you delete it. But so it was deleted, and it needs to refresh the whole list since it was deleted, and you'll see there's a little audit trail that I did delete that account. Just starts happening when you do that kind of thing to it. Now what I'd like to talk about is, let's decide, maybe we are going to lump all of our, let's get all the way down here to where I have those office expenses. And maybe let's decide we're going to take all of these. We do want on our financials to see how much has been spent on payroll altogether. So these 8,500 to 8,509, we may want those in a section called payroll expenses for whatever reason. I'm just making up things, but I'm going to do that so you can learn about editing financial group headings. These are not accounts, these are these headings, these grouping headings that we have here: office expenses, other operating income, these things in black. So if I open this, it's going to go get them and retrieve whatever headings there are from the server for a little bit. But what you'll notice is, well, what did I do? I hate it when I do that kind of thing. Anyway, I pulled it up to where my browser thought it needed to be in this great big thing. But what you'll notice, it should be in a pop-up window, but let's just keep going. If you get down here to general and admin expenses, see, these are not accounts on your chart of accounts. What these are headings. And we do have all of these various headings, even though all of our accounts were in office expenses. We don't have any accounts in payroll, tax, and benefits. So it doesn't show up when we end up scrolling down here. But it is a bunch of headings that CHS already has there for you. Let's take a look at those again. All of these headings are here for you, even though we only actually really use office expenses to enter things to. But let's play like we don't want this salaries heading at all. There's no accounts assigned to it, so it's going to let me delete it. It's because I'm going to reset that up a little bit. It's refreshing it. There's actually quite a bit of stuff that it has going on here. But you'll only be doing this setup of your headings once. So if I look at it now, you're going to see general admin expenses doesn't have anything for the salaries. Maybe I prefer, notice that this 500 is here. What that means is it's under the main, these are headings. Remember, they're not accounts. This number here has nothing to do with the account number, and this number here has nothing to do with the account number. What this number is doing is saying which order I would like these various headings to be in. So there's 510. This is I can use 500 to 589 because that relates to this financial section that I want. Now if I want to add a new one, in other words, payroll expenses maybe, I might decide I want it to show up first. So I might look at this order here and then decide I want to make it sort as a 505, so this group would be before other ones. There is full help about this that's printed. It's a little harder sometimes to talk and mess up things, but I want in section 500, I want another group heading, and I want to call it payroll, and it's a good idea to do it in all caps, payroll salaries, I don't know, and expenses. Or maybe let's just call it payroll expenses. I'm just making up stuff. And remember, it says between 500 and 589. If I used a 510, that was a duplicate already, it would let me know about it, but we decided we'd do 505 because we want those to sort first. You will just have to study on these and get that work done on those. You won't really be dealing with it anymore. But after you set one up, I can click the little save icon. Let's go down here. Now we have one called a group heading called payroll expenses. And again, remember these are just for sorting and for grouping. They have nothing to do with your GL account number. So we've kind of added that new group heading, and we want to get some of our accounts on our chart of accounts grouped under that heading that are not there already. But first, if you notice my little pop-up quote, I have now gone to a newer version of CHS than that video that I'm playing right now is in, and I want to show you just a little bit of a change in editing the financial group headings. Notice now that instead of scrolling to the top and trying to figure out how to fill in a blank row, there is a button for Add New Financial Group Heading. And right here, we would have chosen what section it was going to be in, which was that 500 section. And then we would have put our group heading in for the payroll taxes and expenses. And then we would have put a sort number 505, and we would have submitted it and had the same thing happen, and this list would have refreshed. But I'm going to close this because I'm not going to do that on this one. And also, if you decide to edit one of these, it's going to be basically the same window that pops up, open, and submit. So no longer do you have a little save icon over here that you might forget to use or think, well, I saved it. They were opening along the line. This is actually a little clearer and a little better. So I wanted you to see that about setting up financial group headings. So we're going to go back down to our expenses. And we won't see that heading here yet, but in just a second we will. So let's take a look here. Let's click on salaries, bonuses, and let's edit that one. And what we want to do is change our group heading. And now in the group heading is payroll expenses, submit edits, post the edits. We're going to refresh just because it needs to start this new group. You'll all of a sudden see now we have a new group called payroll expenses. So if I go back down here and I edit this salaries general, and I tell it which group I want, which is that 505 group, I can do that. Submit edits. And it's refreshing, and we now have 2 accounts there under payroll expenses. What I'm going to do right now is pause this video and do the rest of these so that we don't have too much length on this video, and then I'll start it up again in just a second. Okay, I got all of those edited and moved into the group for payroll expenses, everything that seemed to have to do with payroll. I had to get rid of some slashes on those loaded ones. I need to go change that because slashes are no longer allowed when loaded, but otherwise I've sort of cleaned them up. I could change this again, this group, just edit the group heading if I wanted to, and take a look and experiment with reports and financials for how those groups are handled. But let's say for some reason we want to put salaries owners or something in here. We want to add a new account. So we would look at this 8500, 8502. Maybe we decide on 8501. So let's add a new GL account. You can also review those accounts over here in case you're trying to remember what you're doing and see what account numbers have already been assigned, because you cannot duplicate them. 8501. And let's just call that salaries owners for whatever reason. And we are grouping all those under our payroll thing that we set up of 505. That's the group heading we want those to show up under, and the financial section will be general and admin. This is not a cash account and is not a credit card account. I'll come back to that in just a minute. We'll submit that new account and post the account. And it will stay here in case I want to continue adding some more accounts, but let's close this for a minute. Let it go ahead and get itself refreshed. And it will stay on the one I clicked on, so you might click on one and then add your new thing. But there's salaries owners in there ready to go. The other thing is, and we'll talk about this more in cash management, but if we edit this construction checking account, we might want to change the title, so we click the edit button. Maybe we don't want to call it that. We want to give it the name of the bank. The group heading we selected is a cash group heading. But notice how this one is marked as cash account yes. That means that when you print checks or post deposits, etc., this account will be available to select from, that you're printing all your checks from that, or available as posting deposits to, etc. So you need to mark the ones that you want available in drop downs when you're selecting which checking account or bank account you're posting a deposit to or posting checks to. So that's why there's that account when you're setting up. It says cash account yes. You can click a little question mark button that will talk about that. The other thing is I don't think we have any set up. If you go to the help about using credit cards, let's go down here to current liabilities. We have one account, but when you're using credit cards, you'll probably have a credit cards payable dash, maybe American Express dash Visa dash Discover dash Lowe's dash. And if you watch all of the help and follow the videos about setting up credit card accounts, CHS can handle the fact that you might pay Joe the plumber with a credit card and keep the bill there under Joe the plumber, and then you mark it as paid with a credit card. So it will step you through how you need to come to your chart of accounts and set up a credit card payable. We don't have this one marked because you also set up a vendor in your accounts payable to go with that credit card. So if you select yes, this is a credit card payable, it's going to want you to select a vendor that you've set up here to be associated with it, like a vendor called American Express and a vendor called that kind of thing. But there's full help about doing credit cards. I'm going to cancel my changes right now because we are not prepared to do that yet. But you will probably be adding credit cards payable if you use credit cards a little bit later to your chart of accounts. Now I'm going to go ahead and stop this video and probably do a second one to talk a little bit more about this window, the chart of accounts window, and then we will be going into, in that video, about setting your control accounts, and we'll be talking in a video after that about entering your balance forwards. Thank you for watching.